Yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manopustam Stapitam Jena Swayam Rupamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padatam Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupa Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunatha Shri Ram Sadhuikam Sabatutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Pate Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Goranti Radhe Vrita Shabada Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Panchatapatarubhyascha Vipasindurvya Pancha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasa Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. So you're welcome to today's section. We'll continue from where we stopped yesterday. Yesterday we discussed about Krishna talk about the determination, happiness, work in three modes. Knowledge, we already discussed about that, determination, work in three modes, and we're about to start talking about happiness in three modes, understanding in three modes. So we have discussed all this. So, and towards the end, Mother Nikki asked a question. He asked me that have I should give my own practical experience of this. So I was already late yesterday, so I promised today we will talk about it. So, can you hear me? The network okay?
Yes, brother, we can hear.
Okay. So let me give you my own quick, my practical experience of the shifts in my mind. Generally, my determination is very short. If I cannot make impact in my environment. So, like for example, coming to Philippines and changing my environment, coming here and see what is going on in the environment. Generally, I've become so impatient if I cannot make quick impacts in my immediate environment. Means I'm a person who love to make a change, positive change in my environment. So if I cannot achieve that, then I feel that I cannot stay in that particular situation or environment. But since I've come here, even before coming here, but it became more stronger when I came here because I've realized that wherever you go in this world, Krishna is going to bring the same situation around you because it's not about the environment, it's about you. So the same situation will always crop up around you. So you cannot escape it until you change your own consciousness or your mind. You cannot escape it. Same situation will always come around you. If you like, you change your work. Same situation will always come around any work you get. You leave one particular country, go to another particular country. The same situation will always creep around you. Because it's not about that situation, it's about you. Your energy that is creating such situation around you. So you have to work on yourself. So after realizing this, my determination uh, not to change because of the situation around me has become more stronger. Now it's becoming more unbreakable. That instead of me trying to change my environment, I better change myself so that I can go beyond that particular test of my life. So, I begin to try to practice more of determination in mode of goodness and understanding the mode of goodness, which is very helpful in terms of this kind of situation. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So, we continue we stop in 30. I think we stopped in 36 yesterday. So we're going to 37. Okay, so continue from where we stopped yesterday. I'll just read the one. First of the Bharata. Now, please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditions to enjoy and by which sometimes comes to the end of all this stress. Have you read the happiness in 3 months? Yes.
I think we stopped at verse
Yes,
39, Prabhu.
39.
Yeah, I think yeah, we read it yesterday. Thank you very much. And this happiness in 3 months also, we can all relate with it. And so every one of us can relate with it and understand what Krishna is trying to explain to us. That we should try to come to the mode of goodness, which is the learning to control our senses. We bitter in the beginning, but actually, when we learn to control our senses, and which may be like us in the beginning, but at the end, uh, brings happiness. Then we talk about the pain of restraint is better than the pain of regret. Very important to take note of this. Okay, so we go to the text 40. Natadasti, yes, you answer, Mother Lakshmi.
Sorry, Prabhuji. I guess today we have a presentation, Prabhuji.
You have a presentation today.
Yeah, Prabhuji.
So you're ready for your presentation.
I thought today was the due day.
Okay, yes, today. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let us go for presentation then. Who wants to go first? Who wants to go first? Okay. I'm going to give how many minutes you need average?
5.
5 minutes. Okay. So I'm very happy. Abu David is very glad to give his presentation. Wow.
Ready to go.
That is very interesting. So let me set up the time, then we can start. Okay. Wow. Timer. Okay.
That. Can you see
Okay,
it?
so I see it. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, let's start.
Okay. So I'm going to go very quickly. So
Okay.
we're talking about, we all know what we're talking about. Verses 16, 21, 16, 22, and the gates of hell. Lust, anger, and greed. And they're defined in 1621. But when I was reading, I was directed towards a conversation that Prabhupada had with devotees in Melbourne in July of 74. And even though everybody's pathway and the way they trip upon lust, anger, and greed are different, everyone's kind of different, but we're all kind of the same in some ways too. We all follow this kind of blanket prognosis, medical diagnosis. But at the same time, we are all different. In this period of Kali Yoga, however, we have exceptional tribulations because the demonic world has grown so massively that they have a lot of power, and the environment creates, if you participate in the demonic environment, you become tainted somehow, or, it's difficult to avoid being tainted. Ignorant and dishonest, the demons don't know what they do. And the only, question I have as a devotee, is that we're often given, food for life, or we're constantly trying to go slay demons. And in our interactions with demons, aren't we, feeding them? Aren't we propping them up to some degree? Aren't we furthering them through their ignorance and dishonest, even though we're trying to show something else? No God, children are byproducts, scientific definition. Since the 1850s, Nietzsche declared God is dead, and science has, made leaps and bounds. And the scientific developments have all been great. I mean, imagine women no longer afraid to have birth. In 1920, the number one killer of young women was giving birth. And that's no longer something that's taken from young women today. So to some degree, we can be thankful of scientific development, but at the same time, we've put our trust in science as the only solution. And now we look at a future with artificial intelligence being pumped into our kids' brains directly. It doesn't look good because the absence of God is too great. They will destroy the world. 16:9, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works made to destroy the world. Ignorance and greed allow the illusion that the demon is the saint. You have mobilization of the masses. Look at what's happening in America. We hate people that are brown or hate people that are black because they're crossing the border. Like there's all kinds of hatred being stirred up. And when you stir up a hornet's nest, everyone's going to get stung. You distrust foreign concepts, which include Krishna consciousness in an environment, right? You have to learn to get out of the way of these people. One of the great traps, of course, is that, the nature of Krishna and the fact that I am not Krishna, that traps everyone. Sometimes we forget the fact that we are not Krishna. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes when you're giving everything to Krishna and you're like, well, Krishna's giving it back to me. But then you get confused as to what your role is. Self-sufficiency, the goal of Krishna consciousness. Everything must come from within self and from within one's community. And that's something that Krishna, ISKCON needs to deal with even more so than they do, but we'll get to that part. Illusioned. The illusioned are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. And one of the 4 human imperfections outlined in Bhagavad Gita 16:24 is that we assume the illusion to be real. And that's one of probably the biggest defeaters of devotees, is that they get caught up in their own illusion that they are renounced or that they are better than they are or whatever. And that creates a cycle of events that then leads to their questioning of their faith. Pride, false prestige, to be puffed up, as Prabhupada would say. Asuchi vrata, unclean vows, unclean habits, traditions, festivals. I mean, think about all the traditions we're raised with as children before we ever learn about Krishna that are not Krishna conscious, that drive us to barbecues or trailer parks or whatever, whatever it is. We have these things going on, and letting go of that's not easy. And the question then, of course, is what to hold on to. And that's what, a temple is important for. Bhagavad Gita 16:11 through 16:16 are all explanations of how the demoniac exists in a sea of madness. It is said in 16, thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell, which is the classic remedy of a Greek tragedy. Oh, come on, just a few more minutes. I'm almost there. The demoniac people get caught up in a net, that's the Mahaja, and you got warned out. And the biggest war people fight is the war against themselves, right? We're constantly at war with ourselves. You begin to disregard all laws, and these laws are generally designed to govern ourselves, our own behaviors and things like that. Envy and blaspheme create war with the self. You doubt anything outside that, like, for example, God's influence. Those who are envious and mischievous are cast into a sea of ocean and material existence. There is no tolerance for this. The devotee must always be tolerant. It's a tough line to walk. If feeling doubt, one should retreat into the self and meditate. That's one of the solutions that needs to be found. In 1620, they gradually, whoops. Oh, yeah, not important. Go back. Yeah. 1620. He says they sink down into the most abominable types of existence. And, this makes me think that they have to be reincarnated as animals because they don't have mouth or words to petition Krishna. So that's why they continue to sink down lower and lower and lower, because they no longer can chant Hare Krishna. They no longer can find relief in the Kali Yuga, and they just continue to sink lower in the evolution of species. Prabhupada says at the end of the conversation, but there is nothing cheap that simply by pressing nose and eyes you can become God. Don't make compromise. The principle must be observed, then you'll remain strong. And as soon as you make compromise, then it is finished. In 16, 19, and 20, some demons are liberated because they had Krishna in their heart and mind the whole time. Even though they were the dastardly villain, they played their role, right? They played their role, and they are rewarded for playing their role. Chayam Chajet, lust, anger, and greed. Here we are again. The three gates of hell. One must have desire, right? Which could be lust, right? And if it's not for Krishna, then maybe it is lust. Right? So it's important to turn your desire in your lust into desire for Krishna, and that's one thing, I think is very important. Anger is difficult. Think about Nrsingadeva and Lakshmi. Lakshmi comes to Nrsingadeva to calm him down because he gets upset with people that are unsympathetic, right? I feel the same way. If somebody's dishonest or lying to me, I get a little bit upset. I get angry, and I'm thinking, where's Lakshmi? I'm not Krishna. And I think about that sometimes, because that type of anger is shown by the demigods, thinking about things that force violence or a fight. How many times, as a man, sometimes I get into these situations where I have to step in, and it's not a good feeling. And I don't, I try to de-escalate, even on a day-to-day emotional perspective, right? The way anger can be summoned is alarming, right? You can just be walking down the road or something and then suddenly become angry at something somebody says or something does towards you. And the fact that it can be sparked so easily means it's a part of us, and it's a very strong desire that's difficult to remedy. Meditation and chanting are recommended. Greed is easy to overcome, but conflicts can remain, right? Everything is Krishna's. But think about this, I find a $100 bill on the ground, and I pick it up and I start walking. I'm thinking, well, this is Krishna's. I'm going to give it to the temple. And then a man comes up to me and says, you found that $100 bill on the ground. That's mine. And I think, oh, you just saw me pick it up. What do I do? Do I give it to this person who's not really deserving of the $100 bill? Tell you this is Krishna's. Am I stealing it now? There's a lot of conflict that exists in just giving simple charity or doing the right thing. There's always some kind of conflict. Escape from hell. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization, thus gradually attains supreme destination. Right? Temple life promotes Panashan Dharma, more akin to the Amish or 18th century lifestyles before we had the scientific extension, right? Women's liberation and patriarchal studies, structure and language, the reformation of ISKCON, the nature of the Paramatma. I remember a time when women didn't even want to study this. It's true. And it was kind of embarrassing because we were at this point where, a lot of very intelligent women were like, why is the language always him and he and his, And it was difficult to deal with these kinds of things. But the nature of the Paramatma means that the same spirit soul exists in every single person. And that's I think that's the overriding principle there. And then expanding Krishna consciousness is fun. And we must demonstrate that constantly. I know that it begins with me, and as I work towards these things, though I have much to learn, it will happen as Krishna will do so, and I will only have to play my part. And I think that's what you were saying, Prabhuji, at the beginning of the talk when I came in late. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You spent 10 minutes.
Sorry.
We gave you double 5 minutes.
I lied.
That was very good. Nice. Okay, so anybody want to go?
I'll go, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay.
1 second, Prabhuji, it can't be shared. Ashray Mata. 1 minute, Prabhuji.
So at the time, so that you will know whether it's 1 minute or how many minutes.
Okay, if you have like another one can share, Prabhuji.
Yes, Tripura is working on it, my dear Lakshmi.
Okay, Mata.
How many minutes? You have to wait. Or whoever is ready can go on. Or is the only Lakshmi who is ready? Another person ready? Who else is ready? How many of you want to give the presentation? Let me know. How many ready for the presentation? Just raise your hand. Many of you prepare for the presentation. Okay. Daniki, are you not ready? You want to go now?
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah. Oh, well, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Lastly, maybe you should allow what I need you to go now. Then you go out come after. Okay. Right.
Prabhu, I cannot share because someone else is sharing. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Stop. Let's proceed with yours. Then later we can continue. That's right there. Can you hear me?
Tripura.
okay. So hopefully you can see my screen. It'll be a very short presentation. Okay. Can you hear me, Prabhu? Can the class
Yeah,
hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let me just. Okay. So our assignment for tonight is to write or present a practical action on how to avoid or not be trapped in the three gates of hell based on chapter 16, verse 21 and 22, right? The three gates of hell. So this is based on chapter 16, the divine and the demoniac natures, okay, of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So let's get straight to it. So according to verse 21, there are three gates leading to the hell of self-destruction. We have lust, anger, and greed. Okay, so our goal is to give up these three gates. And so in order to do that, we need some advice from the scriptures. And Srila Prabhupada has given us many advice about how to conquer these three gates. And some of the advice are already scattered in Bhagavad Gita, and some of them are in his lectures, in his also in his correspondence, okay, letters. So let's go to some of the tips that I found online or from the scriptures, and then later on I will go discuss my personal how I practice things in order to overcome these three gates of hell. Okay, so the first one is to chanting the Maha Mantra. According to Srila Prabhupada in his letter to Barinda Babu in 1970, by repeated chanting of the transcendental sound vibration, dirty things in the materialistic mind becomes cleansed. So it is true because whenever after you chant, you will realize that so many things that you're thinking at the moment is not really of importance. sometimes you're just overthinking. And so when you chant the Maha Mantra, it really clears up the mind, and all of the distractions that you're feeling, your surroundings, your environment, it all goes away. I'm not saying that chanting the Maha Mantra cures everything. It's not a cure for everything, but it does help. Okay. So for example, you have to do you have to chant every day. For example, now that I have my schedule is a little messy, so I make sure that every single time I finish work, I have to chant for 2 hours straight without deviation, because sometimes I know it's a modern age and we have our phones, we have our TVs and our laptops, so many distractions all around us, but you have to always make sure that you have time for Krishna and to remember his name. Okay, so that's why chanting is very important, because it's a very simple step, but if you miss this, then you're not in the right path. Okay, so let's go to the second way to curb these 3 gates, and that is following the 4 regulative principles. According to Srila Prabhupada in the purport of chapter 16, verse 22, by following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. So meaning that we want to become someone who is in the mode of goodness, right? And in order to do that, we need to put it into practice. And so we need to incorporate many kinds of activities in our daily lives in order to be in a mode of goodness. So the 4 regulative principles is the key to that. You need to change your lifestyle, and you have to make it in line with the mode of goodness, or in the mode of goodness. Hence, you need to practice not gambling, not drinking any intoxicants, not having sex outside of marriage, and also not eating meat. Okay, so let's go to the third one. Reading the scriptures. According to the purport again of verse 22, by cultivating knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. So meaning that, as we learned before, there are 3 stages, right, when it comes to our spiritual advancement. So the first one is Sambandha Gyan. And in that stage, you need to really inquire. You need to know the real knowledge in order to understand Krishna. So that is why you read the scriptures. You need the foundation for your practice, because you can't just practice something that you don't know. That's why we read Bhagavad Gita, we read Srimad Bhagavatam and other kinds of scriptures, because you need knowledge first before you do the actions. Okay, so let's go to the 4th way, which is devotional service, or primarily deity worship. I was reading one of the letters written by Srila Prabhupada. One of the example here is letter to Hayagriva. There, the recipient was wondering how he can curb his lustful desires. And Prabhupada said that you can, there are 2 ways. You can get married to a Krishna conscious wife, right? To a Krishna conscious lady, and of course produce Krishna conscious children with her. But that's not the best way to subdue lust. You need to, so lust is just desire, right? So there's a fire in you that you wanna extinguish. And in order to do that, marrying a girl isn't gonna fix it all, okay? So Prabhupada said that in order to subdue lust, you need to follow a different process. And that process is to perform deity worship. So all of your desire that's pent up inside you, you need to pivot and devote that to the deities. Okay, so that there's still desire, but now you're putting it in a good, source, or a good recipient. It's not anymore the girl. You're not really curbing lust for your own personal desires, but you're doing it to please Krishna, which is through deity worship. Okay, so let's go to the last one, following the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. According to the purport again of verse 22, there are 4 orders of life and the 4 statuses of life, and this is the Varnashram Dharma. And if you follow the rules and regulations of this, then you will be able to be raised in the highest platform of spiritual realization. So at the moment, we are all Shudras, right? We're all working, we're all laborers, and if that's okay. And sometimes work, although it's frowned upon, we need to work, because it's our duty to work. But it has to be for the pleasure of Krishna always. Okay, so that's it. I'm not gonna discuss this thoroughly because we're running out of time actually. So this is not exclusive, this list. So you can still go to the scriptures and look at different ways to overcome the three gates of hell. These are just the 5 topmost tips that I've gathered. Okay. So what about my personal actions to give up the 3 gates of hell? So I did not list the solution or the tips or actions that I do perform because it might get screenshotted and it might get misconstrued by people because without the context, it might sound a little bit odd. So to me, these are the things that I do in order to really not be drowned in these 3 gates of hell. Okay. So according to text 22, the man who has escaped the 3 gates of hell perform acts conducive to self-realization. So meaning you have to perform certain activities that goes in line with the 4 regulative principles, right? So when it comes to lust, these are what I do. This might not work for you, but just hear me out, okay? So let's give vanity or material acquisition because we already know the answer to that. Okay, when it comes to vanity, do not be detached to your body because it's just temporary, it's just a shell. So someday it's gonna shrivel, okay, and die. So do not get attached. You might look beautiful right now, but that's not gonna last. Okay, so get off your high horse and be humble and devote everything to Krishna. That's basically the answer to vanity. When it comes to material acquisition, just remember that we're all servants of the servants. So all of your material gains, they're not yours. It's all Krishna's. Okay, Krishna is the main proprietor. We know those. But when it comes to sexual lust, one thing that I really follow strictly is this rule. I limit my association with the opposite sex. And sometimes it gets worse. I do not associate with the opposite sex because my reasoning is that if you make friends with them, you're gonna spend time with the opposite sex, meaning that you're gonna think of them. And if you think of them, then that leads to a different door. So do not. So in my own experience, I don't have any male friends. I will never have a male friend. I don't think that will ever change. I think I will only have a male friend when I get a husband someday, hopefully, but it's not my goal because I know that female friendships with the Matajis is already so fulfilling that I don't need association with men. Okay. As long as it's not Krishna related, we don't need to talk. It's a little bit okay, but just listen. Okay, so the second way for me to curb lust is really to create boundaries. I keep everything professional and I don't mix relationships. So for example, I have a professor or an instructor, and whether he is female or male, I do not mix relationships. We cannot be friends if you are someone that is teaching me things. I just don't think mixing relationships will be good for the both of us. I think it'll mess things up instead. So I keep everything professional. I don't associate with the opposite sex, and I only associate with Matajis. And that way, lust is, you don't feel it because there's no person that's causing you to have lusty thoughts because you don't associate with them. Okay, so that's how I do it. It might not work for you, but it might work for someone else. That's why I'm sharing it. Okay. So for the second gate, that's anger. I think to me, the tip here is really to be careful about angering someone and to angering yourself. So for me, anger is so heavy. You know, when you're angry, it feels so heavy in your body. It's heavy in your nape, it's heavy in your back, it's heavy in your head. So what's the point? Really, why put yourself through such an intense feeling that just eats everything up? You know that saying that when you're angry, you see red, right? That's not normal. That's not a human feeling. So whenever you feel angry, just remember that you're gonna probably hurt someone, not just yourself. So you need to keep in touch with your feelings or your emotions whenever something is causing you to feel rage. Okay. So to me, when it comes to anger, I care more about what the other people or person will think or will feel. So I usually stop myself before I utter anything anything ridiculous that might offend someone else. So one tip that I've read when I was it's a quote, really. It's an African proverb that I read when I was in high school. It says that the axe forgets, but the tree always remembers, meaning that the perpetrator always forgets the intensity and the gravity of what he said or has done, but the victim always remembers the harshness of it all. So you need to be careful when it comes to your anger, because it really sticks to people. Physical abuse, yes, it's the worst kind of abuse, but verbal abuse is a thing too. Okay, so you need to be careful with the words. You need to be gentler. You need to be more conscious about what you're saying or what you're uttering when it comes to other people. Chastising, telling people that they did this wrong. You need to do them in a gentle manner. Okay. So also when it comes to anger, there's a quote that was shared to us by Prabhu Kavi before. I forgot who really quoted it. But Prabhu Kavi said that when you're angry, it's like you're holding onto a coal. You think you're hurting the other person, but it's you who's you're hurting the most. Okay, so it's you who's hurting, not the other person. It's you who's burning up because of the coal in your hand. So anger is just like that. It causes your own ruination. It doesn't cause anything terrible to the other person. It's you who's putting yourself in much more grave danger. Okay, so that's anger. Also, anger, you can connect it to frustrations. When you're not in control, you get angry because we're supposed to want to lord over material nature, right? To material things. That's why when we don't get what we want, we get a little bit angry and fed up about it. But the thing is, when you're not in control, it already makes your day bad. It ruins the mood. And so when you get frustrated over things not working out, it's like wasted time altogether. Okay, so it makes things worse. So just let it be, let it go, let the flow of life take you with its current. Do not fight it. Okay. So the third gate is greed. To me, greed, it's more on money, right? In the material world, because there's a song written by Madonna. It's a material world, and I'm just a material girl, and it's kind of right. It's kind of right. But the thing is, when it comes to money, I have a healthy relationship with money because I know how bad it gets when you have too much. I read this quote from in high school again about greed. So for example, the quote says that money is like fish or anything perishable, really. You have too much, it spoils. So that's money to you. It's a double meaning. So if you have too much, it spoils everything else because you cannot consume all of those things. Money is fungible. So you need to consume it right away. If you don't, then it just goes to waste, right? Look at the billionaires. So also when you have too much, it ruins your personality, it ruins yourself because you think you're now the supreme lord. You have so much money, you have so much property. So it's not a good thing. Greed to me is something like I think when you're greedy over things, it means that you're not really, and you don't know the real meaning of life, okay? Because you don't get to have those things when you leave this world. Your mansion, you're not gonna take it with you. You're gonna leave it behind, and all of your inheritors will fight over it. So it's not that important, okay? So when it comes to greed, also diet is one of those things. Just eat intuitively. You don't need to hoard food. You don't need to hoard anything really in this life. There's more than enough for all of us, okay? We don't need to take things more than we can put in our plates. So that's greed, okay? So hopefully you learned something from me. Just to conclude everything else, the main thing that you need to learn from chapter 16 verses 21 to 22 is how to give up or how to escape the three gates of hell. And that is why all of those things that I just explained they matter, because yes, we're reading so many things from the scriptures, but if you don't put the knowledge into practice, then it's also not useful. So you need to really incorporate these things to your lifestyle, to your daily activities, okay? So just to end everything else, according to verse 23 of chapter 5, right? Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is a yogi and he is happy in this world. Hence, if you cannot overcome these three gates of hell, lust, anger, and greed, then you will be forever unhappy, okay? So thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So, Owen's sharing Mana Lakshmi's presentation. Why would I share? Exactly 7:25 hours. So, please. Yeah.
Can you see it, Prabhuji?
Yeah, we can see.
Krishna to everyone. Today we'll see about how to escape the three gates. So, instructed by Kavi Prabhuji, presented by Lakshmi, inspired by Srila Prabhupada. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter of 16, text 21 and 22 says, the Lord Krishna identifies the lust and anger and the greed as the three gates to the hell, which leads to the degradation of the soul. So, here's Srila Prabhupada purport explains that these qualities initiate a demoniac life where one becomes entangled in the material existence, unable to escape or avoid any these destructive tendencies. A practical action rooted in the Krishna consciousness is to cultivate the devotional service. We'll see how it goes through. So here we'll be discussing about hell, anger, and the greed. I explained like a brochure. So here, understanding the problem, how in the 16.22 the Lord Krishna warns there are three gates which lead to this hell, which is the lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give up these, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So lust drives us to chase the fleeting pleasures, mistaking the body for the self. And the anger erupts when desires go unfulfilled, clouding our judgment. In Bhagavad Gita 2.63 states, Krodhodbhavati sammoha, sammoha vibrahamaha, spritibamsat buddhinasat, buddhinasat pranashyati. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down and again the material pool. So, greed traps us in the endless craving for more wealth, status, and power. So, here the solution, how we can solve it through a practical path to the freedom, where it states in 22. So, text 22 offers hope the man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducts you to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Here, Srila Prabhupada teaches that devotional service purifies the heart. So, how can we go through it? Like chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, where the chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We can chant like this daily, begin with one round, which has a 108 rounds, and aim for a 16 rounds to cleanse us all the lustful thoughts. So, chanting the holy name engages the mind in Krishna, leaving no room for material desires, which is the nectar of the devotion. And we can live simply through volunteer at a temple, read the Bhagavad Gita, or help others. Live simply, eat only prasadam, which is food offered to the Krishna. Avoid extravagance and declutter possessions. This cuts greed by focusing on needs, not wants. So simply living and highly thinking lead to Krishna consciousness, which states in Srimad Bhagavatam. And third one is serving the devotees. How we can serve the devotees, to volunteer or at a temple, which we can read the Bhagavad Gita or help others. Serve redirects energy from anger to love for Krishna. So how we can implement through the steps? We can do morning chanting, at least one round of the Krishna mantra using the prayer beads. We can do through meals, prepare simple vegetarian prasadam and offer it to the Krishna, which we before eating. We can do it in evening, like we can read the verses, 2 to 3 verses of Bhagavad Gita as it is with Srila Prabhupada's purport. We can join the devotees for the kirtan or temple service to stay inspired for every week. So it will reflect that each night and note moments where lust, anger, and greed arose. Replace them with gratitude for Krishna guidance. So here, why it works? Because Prabhupada explains that chanting and simply living awaken our eternal body bond with Krishna, freeing us from material traps. So, devotional service is the only one way to transcend these gates and reach the supreme destination. In how we can transform Krishna with our life. So, here, by chanting the Krishna holy name and living simply, we can escape the lust, anger, greed, attaining peace and the spiritual progress. So we here, like, we see the sources and we chant every day, early morning 6 to 7 and 4 to 6 o'clock. We'll chant with a group of people in a Zoom meeting, so everyone can chant with people who cannot chant without. And the holy name of the Krishna is the supreme purifier, delivering one from all sinful reaction, which stated the Srila Prabhupada, the science of self-realization. So, why it works? So, as it is chanting and simply living awakened for our eternal bond with Krishna, freeing us from the material traps. Here, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra daily, the living simple to curb greed, engage in the devotional service to counter the lust and anger, which will lead to escape from these three gates. So, why this we need it? To prevent the degradation of the soul, to achieve self-realization and liberation, to break the cycle of material suffering, to fulfill the soul's and eternal purpose, to counter the influence of the material world. Finally, the summary of this: lust attracts with pleasure, anger with control, greed with security. But these are illustrations that degrade the soul, as warned in Bhagavad Gita 16.21. They promise happiness but deliver bondage, making the devotion steps essential to escape their grip and attain Krishna, the supreme destination, is stated in 16.22. So, by practicing Krishna consciousness, one transcends these false attractions, finding eternal fulfillment. If we, uh, if we go through this, we'll finally escape these gates. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for your presentation. Any other presenter? Rachipura, are you presenting?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Please do it fast because we have very little time. Please go ahead, okay? I want to stop by 7:25. Right, Mother Chipura. Time is going. If we're not presenting, we'll have be preparing.
Yes, Prabhuji, am I audible now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. Today I'm going to speak on a very practical and relatable part of the Gita from chapter 16, verses 21 and 22. Krishna tells us about three powerful forces that can lead us to spiritual destruction, like lust, anger, and greed. But this is not just a warning, it's a rescue plan. So, with the help of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, we will learn how to avoid these traps and live a more peaceful and happy devotional life. Next slide, Mata.
So in the verse 21, Krishna says there are three gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. And in the very next verse, he gives hope. One who escaped these gates acts for self realization and gradually attains a supreme destination. So, Krishna is both warning and also encouraging us that we can rise above these two levels and we can choose the path of wisdom. Next slide, Mata. The emotions like deadly addictions. Lust is never ending, thirst for pleasure. It looks sweet in the beginning, but leave it as hollow and restless at the end. So now when we talk about anger, it flares up when things don't go our way. It looks so, it destroys our relationships and peace within very few seconds. And when we talk about greed, it is a hunger for more things, more attention, more status, and it builds up being grateful. Each of these becomes a trap that disconnects us from Krishna, from others, and even from ourselves. So we really need to get out of these three: lust, anger, and greed things. So let's move on to the next slide, Mata. Srila Prabhupada explains these three gates are not just emotional problems, they are spiritual dangers. In the purport of verse 21, he says that these qualities are produced by the mode of ignorance and they are the cause of repeated birth and death. We are taking repeated birth and death because we are having one of those qualities. So in the purport, and in the like only way to shut these gates is by living a life of Krishna consciousness, engaging in devotional service, associating with saints, devotees, and following a disciplined spiritual path. It is not about suppressing our emotions, but it's all about how we are performing actions in a pure way for the Krishna and remembering him all the way. I have mentioned here 8 types, like what are the devotional services we can perform: Shravanam, Kirtanam, as we have learned in the previous verses earlier. Can you go for the next slide, Mata? Okay. Let's bring this to real life. When I compare myself to others on social media, that lust and greed at play. So the solution is pause and think Krishna for what we have. Practice contentment as devotion. So when I snap someone at anger, when they were in anger, like the main solution which we can drive from that is like we need to take deep breath and chant the holy name and respond instead of reacting. This is what all we have learned through this journey. Respond but not react. When I want more and more, this shows the greed. So the main solution which we can get out of that is give something away. We need to do the charitable services like donations or something. Even a small service or donations, it helps us to cleanse our greediness. So by converting these emotions into conscious actions, we redirect our energy towards Krishna. Next slide, Mata. Now let's talk about this. Like when I read these verses from chapter 16, I ask myself, like, what does lust, anger, and greed actually look like in my life as a student? It's not always obvious that they come in subtle ways through stress, comparison with our friends, and frustration of our studies and other things, or the fear of not being enough. But Krishna's words in 16.21 are like flashlight, showing me what to avoid. So I built my own student, like I built my own principles, which I always try to follow and stick to it. That is completely rooted in devotion. And the first thing is like avoid the lust, distraction, despise. In my life, lust does not always come as a big temptation. It comes as a distraction. Like sometimes binge watching, like my friend, it's not like few people are doing that. Sometimes we just oftenly feel to do binge watching or scroll our social media. So rather than doing that, when our senses demand entertainment, we have to do our seva, our services, or rather put our efforts in the studies. So my response is like I set time for screen fasting, at least 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours is for sure, because we chant at that time. I use my time to chant more and more. And when I feel to like I very like after many days, like I stop using my phone, and rather I'm using my time to chant and do some services and listen to the kirtans, bhajans. So like we need to have our own way to get deviated from our phones. So sometimes I also listen like Gita class or bhajan while doing chores and commuting. This way, my mind is always tuned to Krishna. So the next one, anger, like how expected, like when our expectation go wrong and we get so angry very quickly, right? So uh, sometimes our teachers seem unfair to us, and sometimes our plans doesn't go in our way. But I learned that anger is just expectation without acceptance. So we need to try to accept our situation rather than complaining about it. Srila Prabhupada said anger can be used, but only when it's controlled and directed properly, like Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra. So I try to pause and breathe, just 5 deep breaths before reacting. I silently chant Hare Krishna once before answering to someone to whom I'm angry with. I journal down my angerness, and when I can't speak it out, it clears the fog in my mind. And I always remind myself that it's going to matter 5 days from now. Like, doesn't this matter when we just pass the days? No, right? So we just need to leave that situation. And when it comes to the greed, it is completely about compassion and craving. I feel greedy when I try to compare myself to others, like their grades, their looks, their lifestyles. So how did I overcome it? I just kept my gratitude journal. In my journal, along with the things like I also include my gratitude, like how I need to be subtle down to earth, like how I need to clean my space, how I need to declutter, how to avoid buying what I need. So when we maintain all these things, we will have a plan. We will have an agenda that okay, where I'm putting my expenditure, what I'm craving for, what is my need, what is my want. So we'll have a clarity on that. So I remind myself like Krishna gives what I need. So why should I crave for something? So the daily tools which I use as a student are waking up early for the mental clarity, because if when we try to like when we sleep late and wake up late, we don't have the particular clarity and we see that day is already gone. So we won't be able to perform any activities. So we have to wake up early so we'll have a mental clarity and we can sort out all our things and do it fairly and smoothly. And japa before class, like earlier I used to do it often, like japa during my classes, during my breaks, but now I have put this like whenever my day starts, I must chant my rounds. So I have brought that into my practice so that it makes us a clear vision and brings us a peace and like everything right before we start our day. And prasadam, like I try to cook myself the prasadam and
You have to start rounding up because I have
okay,
another class. Okay.
sure. So prasadam makes means to control our senses, and also devotees association makes us to get encouragement to perform devotional service and have the peace in our life. And Gita reading like this, it makes us to have a correct direction amidst of all the confusions we have. So we just need to think like we are not perfect, but Krishna is expecting perfection from us. So he's just asking for our sincerity, and every time I choose awareness over impulse, reflection, and reaction. So I just want to conclude by this quote: a devotee is always alert not to fall into the trap of lust, anger, or greed, because he knows Krishna is watching. So we just need to think Krishna is watching us. We just need to offer our services and be humble enough. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. So next, I'll give a feedback on Monday. I really appreciate all of you who are really working hard to make the presentation. I appreciate that. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita, we're going to give a certificate of cooperation for those who don't miss any presentation. And giving the presentation, I'm going to do that. So I have to go now because I have to start another class. Thank you very much, everyone. See you on Monday. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, how about those
You are the host.
who haven't presented? We will present next week.